Hi everyone, Joe Cianciulli here from the Academy of Bel Canto. We're talking about appoggiare today. So appoggio in bel canto is understood as a buildup of pressure that happens in the voice, and it creates a qualitative change in the sound. Now, many old world voice builders, it was passed on to me, understood that this was a natural sensation. It was not something that you create. However, a lot of modern singers are trying to create that sound, the qualitative change that they hear, and a lot of new voice teachers are trying to encourage an imitation of that sound. And the reason is, I think most of them were not taught how to encourage appoggio in the voice, how to identify appoggio. So that's what we're going to be talking about now. Now, appoggio, like I said, is a natural byproduct of a buildup of pressure. It's something that happens in the voice naturally and shouldn't be muscled or forced. However, the vowel of appoggio in men, because we're talking about the male voice here, appoggio is a male quality, the vowel is O. So with everything in bel canto, we're trying to encourage a physical sensation of something in the body so that the singer can then go back to that physical sensation in their singing. Okay, when they're singing repertoire, they can go back to the sensation they had of not singing beyond the folds, in other words, muscling, but going back to that sensation of freedom and release. So the vowel of appoggio in men is O. When you start hearing something bubbling up in the singer, something rising in the singer, a little bit of tension maybe in the chest, the pectoral area, that's when you know you're probably around the area of appoggio. However, you don't just go into appoggio and take them through. You have to make sure it stays in the same place. In our courses, we talk about where to find appoggio, where the general area of appoggiare starts for the tenor versus the baritone and versus the bass. And of course, we also have our workshops that you can look into, and we also have our teaching certification. But with appoggio, when you take the singer into appoggio, we're going to take a simple exercise like va, which encourages the sound to release towards the upper teeth. Va, va, va. We'll do it on a 5 note. Va, 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 va. Now I'm going to go just before appoggio. My appoggio starts on D. We're on C. So we have 2 half steps to go. So I go va, 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 va. Va, 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 va. And then when I have appoggio, I could just open the sound up, but I wouldn't have a strong sensation to what appoggiated sound sounds like. Va, 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 va. Va, 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 va. And then in appoggio, va, 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 va. Yeah, you hear there's a qualitative change. I'm not muscling or squeezing or manipulating in the back of the mouth. I'm still keeping the sound releasing towards the campana, towards the eye teeth, the inner smile, la maschera, what a lot of teachers call the bones in the front of the face that allow resonance to, or squillo really, to lead the body. So, the tendency for singers is to push into the appoggiare. Okay, they try to make more sound, and the problem with that is you're going to dull the upper voice. You're going to have issues later on with the upper register. You don't get involved with body. We allow body to be released through the squillo. So I'm going to take myself through my full appoggio, and I'm going to take myself down from the C. Va, 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 va. Va, 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 va. Va, 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 va. Now, I'm not pushing in appoggio. Now, what about vowels, like more open vowels? How do we encourage more open vowels in appoggio? It's called vowel sharing. Dan called this concept vowel sharing. We're always working with pure Italian vowels. We're not working with Burton-Coffin vowel modification. However, we can share the quality of appoggio into an open vowel as long as the singer isn't muscling or pushing. So I could go vo and then open to ah. I want to keep the quality of the o, okay, still with squillo leading everything through. However, you can change or open up the sound, allow more of the resonance to move through from the o to the ah. So I'm on appoggio now. I will go that's a top of my appoggio. Now, passaggio is the same way. We'll talk about passaggio more later on. You don't muscle to get higher notes, okay? But the vowel of passaggio is U, so I will go to VU when I get to my passaggio. Now, vowel sharing for U is like the vo, but you have to go through U and then O to get to the A. Yeah? So you share from the U to the O to the A. I'm in passaggio. And for the teachers out there and the critics who say things like, well, you can't have power and size of the voice without muscle. There are intrinsic muscles that are involved in, or I should say, involuntary muscles that are involved in vocal production. Okay. By pushing and squeezing muscles, you're pushing the folds together. Yes, you will have a short-term bigger sound. However, you will not have long-term longevity. Long-term longevity comes from allowing body to come through based on your size of the voice, based on your own personal anatomy, and based on really your technique and how well you understand what the breath is doing when you allow the descent of breath, when you allow the posture to encourage release in the voice. But you can allow more body and more size to come through over time. And this is why bel canto took years and years, not because teachers wanted to have a steady income from one student for 10 years. It was because in order to truly embody the connection, it's a physical connection between the release of resonance and the voice, and the posture. It took years and years of slowly building that connection without rushing the voice through. Now, the problem with universities, they rush the voice through. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Dan said bigger sound starts from a very focused sound. So I'm going to go in passaggio, and I'm going to open up to O and then U. I'm going to open up to O and then A, and I'm going to allow more body to come through. And I want you to hear, I'm not doing anything except for adjusting the posture. I allow the sternum to come forward slightly, gently, and I just allow more of the body to move through, to release. I'm not pushing, I'm not squeezing. Now, from U, now, it's possible to push beyond the connection depending on the state of the connection that day, that week, that month, where you are in your training. You could create more or less sound, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with just allowing enough of the squillo leading the body to come through to reflect your vocal development at that point. And then when you go to singing, the hard part is to not get involved, to not over-sing, to not push the folds together. When we do that, we compromise the longevity of the voice. So this has been your little excerpt on appoggiare, a little on passaggio, the vowels that we use when we go into appoggio for the singer, the male singer, and the vowels we use for passaggio. We even add a little bit of information in on vowel sharing. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at vocalmastery1@gmail.com or visit us at our website at academyofbelcanto.com. The books, like I've said in our podcast, really are just meant to help teachers to have a different perspective that is rooted in bel canto technique. Okay, I went through university first, and then I went through teaching assistantship, and then I went to Sing for the Met, and they had guided me to work with Dan Montes, because Dan could bring body, but they knew that it would be a difficult journey, which is why they said you may not be able to do it, and that's not because of my my own discipline. It was just because it's a very difficult road to be told, at 21 when you have a debut with 2 or 3 opera companies that if you want to learn this method, you have to completely stop all of your engagements, and you have to go back to 3 lessons a week with me, and it'll take 5, maybe 6 years, but you will have a completely different voice. Now, I trusted the process. I gained a lot from the experience, and after I finished those 5 or 6 years with Dan, I then went to 4 or 5 years with Dan again to learn to teach the technique. So we are always open to sharing and guiding singers to their optimal vocal release and resonance. If you do have any questions, visit us on our website, and we will see you for your next excerpt.